Yep, well, it finally happened to the surprise of absolutely nobody that's been following what's been going on. The CSGO Major has now officially been announced as cancelled. I'm recording this video sort of straight after it's been announced, so it's not really well structured or particularly well thought out, but I thought I'd just give some thoughts and some opinions about it, and, in case anyone gives a fuck what my thoughts and opinions are about it. But first off, obviously, it's hugely disappointing to not be having a major, especially given that this would have been the big one, but because it was $2 million as opposed to $1 million. But the reality is we were painted into a corner, right, with how everything's been going as it relates to COVID and the choice of country that we were going to host the event in being currently ravaged by COVID. We'll get to all of that. Let's just read the blog statement. In fact, actually, before I read the blog statement that Valve had put out, I want to say it took you long enough, Valve. Like, for fuck's sake. Like, everyone in the industry has been watching what's been going on in Brazil and pretty much knowing that realistically you were going to have to cancel the major. People in my circle of industry friends that was the prescribed wisdom months ago. But because there's been this desire to sort of labor on as if everything was okay, some people's livelihoods have been affected. It's impacted on some people's ability to run, like, tournaments. It's some people have put themselves to, sort of great expense to, be playing in all these, like, qualifiers and stuff, and all for nothing. Now, I don't know where the right point is where Valve can say definitively it's not going to happen, but it was definitely before now. So it's took you long enough. I feel like with TI, again, everything was just clean. And, the Dota community aren't happy, but I feel like we were straight in. We knew it wasn't, it just can't happen right now with the world being the way it is. But anyway, whatever. Let's read this statement. So they said, when we announced the Rio Major, we were excited to bring a CSGO Major to one of Counterstrike's most passionate fan bases. Lean into the meme. More Valve. Lean in. At the time, we couldn't have imagined the global challenges that have limited live events throughout 2020. We're not going to ask players and fans to risk their health in order to attend a major, while the pandemic still poses a threat to travelers. Therefore, we have made the painful decision to cancel the November major. So what's the plan? First, we're going to hold off on scheduling majors until, at a minimum, regional major ranking LAN events are safe to hold around the world. Until then, we expect to continue to hold online regional major ranking events to keep track of the best teams in each region. So a few things here. I'll just bring this up so everyone can see that this wasn't done hastily. Wow, Guardian's bright. Sorry, I'm going to get fucking white out in my face here. This was from 5 days ago, according to The Guardian. Brazil records 50,000 cases in 24 hours. That was like a record. And the death toll has now surpassed 125,000. They're up to 4.1 million cases of the virus. And let me tell you, because of the messaging that has been put out by the government over there, it's business as usual, essentially. It has, which, look, some of the countries did that too and didn't get anywhere near as much criticism as Brazil has. I guess it's the phraseology. Bolsonaro's ideas are a little bit wacky. But the bottom line is, this is not something that is going away by November. This is going to have to play all the way out, and maybe even up until the point where we get some form of vaccine in place somewhere in 2021. Whatever. There was nothing Valve could do in terms of having to cancel. It simply isn't safe, especially if you're immunocompromised, have respiratory problems. But this is a killer disease anyway, in and of itself. So it's the right decision. What I'll say is, though, here's what we can glean from the way that statement is worded. They haven't just cancelled this major. They have cancelled all future majors until COVID goes away. That could be a long fucking time, friends. And meanwhile, what do we get in its place? What do we get instead of majors? Well, that's a question I think I would like Valve to answer moving forward. You know, I'm not saying you can have online majors. Oh, Lord, definitely not. Not with everyone cheating and using bugs and exploits. The online era of CS is a fucking joke, and a separate issue, but I'm so sick of all the little rats that used all these exploits to basically turn the online era into a joke. Because we always sort of knew online Counterstrike was dodgy and dubious at the best of times. Now you can't believe anything. Coaches are cheating, smoke bugs, God knows what else. What a mess. Anyway, but I think it would be nice for Valve to commit to something. Like, I know an online tournament can't be a major. Could we do something Valve in it, you know, instead? Not call it a major, not brand it as a major? Well, they're saying we're going to be doing these regional major ranking LAN events to keep track of the best teams in each region. Well, how often? What's the structure? I guess we're going to have to wait. But so far, you know, I don't think they've necessarily achieved that goal. There's been some problems with some of those in and of themselves. I would like to see Valve be a bit more hands-on with those than what has been. Anyway, bottom line, you don't get any majors until COVID goes away, and we're going to run these online tournaments every so often, because when the majors come back, we want to be able to slot teams straight into the major based on wherever they are positioned in the regional major rankings at that time, which, by the way, you could find yourself just peaking at the right time that the majors come back because we get a handle on COVID, and you just get untold benefits from that. So whatever. Random aspect. More importantly, they finally addressed the elephant in the room in regards to coaching. So yeah, majors cancelled. We all saw that coming. The coaching thing, no one saw this coming. And as I told you all, there's still more names to come. Like, trust me, even at the time of recording this, which is on the day this has been announced, you might be seeing it the day after or the day after that, there are still more names to come. I am telling you. Right now, there are a lot of people wondering whether they should jump or wait to be pushed with this ESIC investigation. I'll tell you, fucking jump, because at least you'll get some leniency. So, Valve said, recently we've been made aware that several coaches of professional CSGO teams exploited a bug in the game in order to gain an advantage over their opponents. It is unfortunate and frustrating that we did not respond to this bug sooner, but bugs are the reality of software, and until they are resolved, we need to be able to trust players and coaches. Now, let's just assess that statement. I'm sure some people will criticize Valve for that. I agree with them. At the end of the day, bugs exist. You shouldn't be using them. And I think it's incredible how many pro players and pro coaches I know that they will use bugs. They draw the line at downloading software. So if you say to these pro players, hey, download this cheat, it removes smoke, they go, oh my God, you're a fucking hacker. If you say, hey, here's an ambient occlusion bug that lets you fucking see through smoke, so, you know, like we had in Source, they'll be like, oh, well, that's great, because everyone will be using that probably, right? And they use it. It's madness. They don't even understand the parallels or the comparisons. So I knew, for starters, when I discovered that smoke bug and put the video out and it got patched out of the game, I'm telling you, it's just as well no one has gone back through all of the games and looked, because there's going to be some pro players who've used that. And with the coaching bug, it's there in the demo. You can't get away from it. If you used it, it's recorded. So it's crazy. And Valve are right. You know that bug is there. Now, yes, Valve could have reacted sooner. We know that people tried to tell them about it. What about all the cunts that didn't tell them about it, by the way? What about all the people that sat on this? And that's another thing I fucking hate about pro competition. When these bugs are being circulated, no, right? You don't just tell Valve. Not that anyone did. Like, one or two people tried out of the dozens that knew about it. But who told ESL? Who told The Blast? Who told DreamHack? Who told Faceit? Who told Flashpoint? No one. Everyone sat on their hands, and this is so frustrating for me, because if I'm the first port of call that information gets to, I just make it public so everyone knows and it gets fixed. That because I know that's how you fix these things from 2 decades of writing about this shit. So disappointed with so many people in the competitive world of Counterstrike right now. And Valve is spot on. The fact a bug exists does not excuse you when you use it. You are absolutely guilty of cheating, and there should be penalties forthcoming. What are those penalties likely to be? We won't spend much time here reiterating our stance on the importance of integrity in CSGO matches. Let's be real, it's been a bit back and forth, Valve. At a minimum, we expect that players and coaches will play by the rules and immediately pause the match and alert tournament admins if they know of an issue that may give them or an opponent an unfair advantage. Any teams that were disqualified for exploiting this bug, and that's all of them, if the coach used the bug even for 1 round, it doesn't matter, you get disqualified from the tournaments retroactively. They have now said you lose all of your regional major ranking points. They are reset. So, as a punishment to the teams, I understand why Valve are erring on the side of caution with that, but because they're not saying you can't play in the next major. We don't even know if the players knew. In some cases, we suspect so. In other cases, we can't know for sure. So you're going to have to err on the side of caution with that one, I think. But the bottom line is, this is probably about as extreme as they're going to go. I mean, I think there's a much bigger argument to be made from just being disqualified completely from the next major, whenever that is. That seems to be the appropriate penalty in my mind. Now, it might not even be relevant, but all of the players on the teams that were disqualified during this regional, I know it's a headache, guys, but they shouldn't then just be allowed to rock up to the major having had the benefit in the previous qualifier. Like, because yeah, your points get reset for this one, but there'll be another regional major ranking and another regional major ranking and another regional major ranking. And again, that team that should have been disqualified from this major had it been happening in November, they could be in pole position and just go to the next major whenever it happens. It feels a bit of an empty punishment for the teams. At the end of the day, even if they didn't know the coach was using the bug, the coach has given them the information that is equivalent to the cheat. They're feeling the benefit of that in the game, and that's cheating. You violated the integrity of the game. You know, there has to be a punishment. Then, and this is the final part, and perhaps the most interesting. As for taking action against individual coaches, we're going to wait until we get a complete picture of the extent of the bug abuse and the punishments handed down by third parties. Well, what does that mean? ESIC are doing a just landmark investigation. Nothing like this has been done in esports history, I would say. 25,000 demos being analyzed for any instances of abusing this bug going back to 2016. So Valve are waiting on that. Because, listen, I don't think Valve will just do anything ESIC tell them or follow ESIC's advice. I think, if anything, they don't work with ESIC closely enough. But ESIC are going to present them with a comprehensive understanding of who did what and for how long and in what circumstances. And I think Valve will take some form of action against the coaches specifically, and I think they're probably right to. They've said they're going to, regardless of the penalties that are handed down by third parties, mid-match coaching will always be a tempting opportunity for some teams to violate the integrity of the match. So we may also consider limitations to coaching. So what have we got coming out of this? Well, you may remember, Valve never wanted a coach anyway. They never wanted you stood behind the players, do it. And it was partially for this reason, but also for partially how they envisioned the game. Now, I was against that decision. I said, Valve, you are limiting how high we can take the skill ceiling in Counter-Strike by doing that. It's like saying you can have a head coach, but no offensive or defensive coordinator in football. That would be an absurd suggestion, and it wouldn't help the sport. That's kind of how I felt about it when it came to coaches. The reality is now, this is what we were all afraid of. Valve have got the ammunition because they can say it's not just about how we envision the game. Coaches can actively cheat. Yeah, and lo and behold, all of the coaches have done it. So I think they are going to give some punishments handed down once we know who did it and for what. And in that regard, I hope they are strict bans. I hope they are strict punishments from the major, because they've set their stall out, Valve, haven't they? You know, we've got the Jampy lawsuit going on right now. Jampy buys a Steam account as a kid, gives it to a friend, the friend cheats on it, right? We've got no proof of Jampy having ever cheated anywhere. Even Valve haven't been so bold as to say that. They've just said, oh, well, it was your Steam account and it's got a VAC ban, so you can never play at the majors. And he's a kid, and he's a super talented kid. But life ban, no appeals, no reprisals. They've done it to other people in the past. This is their stance. Think about iBuyPower. Think about all that talent. We've just said goodbye to Steel, the last, I think, of the Mohicans going off into the fucking sunset. And think about the awful amount of time they've stuck around just hoping for some form of sanity. No, you threw a meaningless game in a meaningless league for a pittance, and it has cost you everything in terms of playing at the highest level in Counterstrike. So what should happen to a coach that cheats against an opponent in a qualifier for Valve's own tournament? What should happen? I mean, you've set the bar as lifetime bans for these trivialities by comparison, things outside of your purview. So, I don't know, guys. I mean, I think if Valve don't want to look stupid, I hate to say it, because I know a lot of these dudes, and you know a lot of these dudes. They probably should ban them for life from the majors. Sorry, that's the go-to punishment of Valve, right? So, what a fucking nightmare scenario. I don't think they'll do that, but they need to issue a ban that shows they're serious. Given the pandemic situation, maybe a number of majors, maybe a year. But what an absolute mess. And this is one of those statements that Valve have put out where it's like, it just raises more questions. And we're not going to know anything about the coaching situation until ESIC finish their investigation. But the final point, imagine a world where these dickheads that have used this bug have now given Valve the ammunition to potentially say, yeah, we're not going to allow coaches. And how far could that go? I had a conversation with my colleague Carmack on Twitter. Again, we're going to get some white out here. Apologies. I should turn the brightness down on my monitor, probably. Getting a fucking wanker's tan. But anyway, you can see here, we were talking about it. I said it's probably worth considering that Valve can Thanos snap CSGO coaches as we know them out of existence by refusing to give licenses to leagues that allow them on the grounds of competitive integrity. Now, this would be so unlike Valve, but it's absolutely within the realms of possibility. Valve can turn around and just say, well, listen, we don't want coaches, and for the first time ever, we're going to put our foot down because this is now a competitive integrity issue. We've already had multiple lawsuits over the skins casinos, and we just can't be arsed with it anymore. So if you allow coaches and potentially, by extension, cheating, then fuck it. You can't have a license. They could do that. I don't think they will, but they could. Carmack said that would be inconsistent with Valve's laissez-faire approach. They do not refuse licenses to TOs that allow Josh and Nissan to play, for example. Not sure they'd care about being involved that way. But also understand, Valve did care enough about the iBuyPower bans to not allow Josh to go and even be an observer. Like, what could he do as an observer? What negative impact could he have? When he was one of the best observers, he couldn't work Valve events because he was banned for match fixing. Absurd. So then I came back with, but then you have to consider the TOs that will fall in line with what they think Valve want, because they believe, either rightly or wrongly, it will increase their chances of hosting events. And for example, when I worked at E-League, one of the decisions I didn't agree with and tried to fight for behind closed doors was we upheld the ban of the iBuyPower guys. They couldn't play in E-League. Even if they made a team and came back, and it would have been great PR and all of this stuff, we wouldn't do it because we knew we were in a great position to get the major license from Valve because we were a huge TV company. with, you know, and so we played along with Valve. We followed their ban list. That was why we did it. So I know TOs think this way, right? So Carmack comes back and says they might. Consistency with the major rule set is a big deal for tournaments, I think, but especially now that majors are bespoke events, not pre-existing events, where you'd have to change your rule set once you won the major. There's a little pressure to do so. So I'll just add, you know, what absolute dickheads these coaches are. Like, I mean, they should all be ashamed. There's now a chance that good coaches, honest coaches, people who never cheat, people who've just signed up as coaches, Lil Momo, my friend, you know, their job might not even exist because it might not be worth having it, you know? Like, Valve could literally just stop it tomorrow. So, great job, guys. I mean, you know, it's for the coaches that are suspended, it's all academic now. It's essentially meaningless. But for guys like that, just getting into coaching, or for legendary coaches, guys like Zonic and stuff, thanks, I guess. So what an awful, awful mess. And like I say, more questions and answers, which is typical of a Valve statement. Now, anyway, as I said, it wasn't as concise because I just recorded these thoughts kind of, you know, on the fly. That's all the social stuff to follow me on. Make sure you, you know, leave a comment down there. Tell me what you think about it. I'm sure some of you are fucking outraged. Stick a comment down there. And let's have a discussion. As always, thanks to the people that support the channel and support my work. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.